the University of Connecticut's women's basketball team. UConn was national champs in 2016, 2015, and 2014. The Lakers are the last men's basketball team to win 3 straight titles. They got the chip in 2000, 2001, and 2002. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles as it presents a Los Angeles Wildfire Benefit Concert on Sunday, February 2nd, 4 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church, 500 East Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena. Join us for a powerful evening of music, unity, and support as talented performers from our community come together to raise funds for those affected by the wildfires. The concert is free, and all proceeds raised will benefit those who have sustained unimaginable losses. It's the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles in concert, Sunday, February 2nd, 4 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church in Pasadena, located at 500 East Colorado Boulevard. All contributions should be made payable to the California Community Foundation Wildfire Community Fund. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I heard him say, nothing's ever promised tomorrow today. From the shot, like Tim, it's a harder way. So this is in the name of love, like Robert say. Before you ask me to go get a job today, can I at least get a raise on the minimum wage? And I know the government administers AIDS, so I guess we just pray like the minister say. Alu Akbar and throwing some hot cars. The things we seen on the screen, it's not ours. But these from the hood, so these dreams not far. Where I'm from, the dope boys is the rock stars, but they can't cop cars without seeing cop cars. I guess they want us all behind bars. I know it, and I heard them say, nothing's ever.
I'm Tavis, Smiley. Glad to have you with us in this hour of our program. And in this hour, as promised, a conversation about the following. You might have heard that Team Trump took down the website for the White House Office of Gun Prevention. Just took it down. Given the influence of the gun lobby on this administration, I suppose we should not be surprised by that move. But taking down a website does not negate the fact that America has a serious gun problem. I don't care who says otherwise. We got a serious gun problem. According to the Gun Violence Archive, which tracks these numbers every day in real time, here are the numbers. We've had 823 homicides and murders, 16 mass shootings, 67 children between the ages of 0 and 17 have been killed, and we have not yet gotten out of the month of January. Those are just 2025 numbers. And so, right now, a conversation with Jonathan Lowy, founder and president of Global Action on Gun Violence. Delighted to have him on this program. Jonathan, how are you today, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me, Tavis.
It's good to have you on. Glad we got a few minutes to work through some of these issues. Let me just start with this. I just asked our last guest this question a moment ago, and everybody sees the world through a different prism. We all operate in different frames and silos, but I'm anxious, certainly in the month of January, in these first 100 days, to ask this question of most of my guests, and I ask it without coloring it any more than I am. But the question is essentially how you read this moment. How are you reading this moment in America?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot to be concerned about and angry about, but where I come from, I try to work outside of the U.S. political system as far as preventing gun violence. And I've been doing this for over 27 years. And to be frank, when it comes to the gun problem, whoever is president and whoever is leading Congress has not made much of a difference. And, there's been some positive strides in the administration, but certainly, not nearly enough. So I think we need to address this problem with litigation, with state action, and with international action, and that's a big part of what I'm doing.
When you say that neither party, no matter who's president, has made much difference in this vein, and I think you're right. One just needs to look at the numbers. that are unabated, no matter who the president is. But why is that? Why is it that whether it's a Democrat in office or Republican in office, we've not made much progress on these issues? And now you get Donald Trump just taking the website about gun prevention down altogether. But Democrat, Republican, why no real progress to your mind?
Well, it's the power of the gun lobby. And, we all have heard about the NRA, but it's really extraordinary. And, they have really put a stranglehold on Congress. So even if the president wants to do the right thing, they can't get the sort of legislation we need. And as a result, the U.S. stands alone in the whole world as far as gun regulation. I mean, every other country has, sensible licensing, registration, and the sorts of policies that, render gun violence not a serious problem. This epidemic in the U.S. and our neighbors are infected by it too, because our laws are so weak that guns are easily trafficked to Mexico, and Jamaica, Haiti, and Canada, and the whole region.
I'm fascinated to get your read on the message that it sends to the nation and indeed the world. Again, Jonathan is the founder and president of Global Action on Gun Violence, and we'll expand this conversation out as we move through this hour. But I'm curious as to the kind of message that it sends when one becomes president, and one of the first things you do is to take down the White House gun prevention website. I'm not sure exactly the message that sends, but I know that Jonathan can tell me what he thinks it means. So there's the question, Jonathan. You get to the White House a second time, and you take down the website about gun prevention. How should we read that in this moment?
Well, I think we should read it that nothing good is going to happen as far as gun violence prevention in this administration. Most likely, I hope that something positive can happen, but I'm certainly not assuming that anything good happens, and that brings me to finding other ways to make change.
I will discuss those other ways to make change when we come forward. Our guest in this hour is Jonathan Lowy. He's founder and president of Global Action on Gun Violence. We're going to get more into how he's using the legal system to stem the flow of guns from U.S. gun dealers to these cartels that we've been hearing a lot about of late, and get into a deeper conversation about the ways in which gun violence can, in fact, be stopped in America. There are many who believe that this issue is intractable. I suspect there are those listening right now who think I'm wasting my time in this hour talking about gun violence, given the intractability of the issue, that nothing seems to work. And by Jonathan's own admission, Republican, Democrat, doesn't make a difference. And yet, my sense is we can't put our head in the sand about this issue. And for those who think that nothing can be done, that's because they haven't lost one member of their family to gun violence. But if you had, it might change your view on the necessity of this conversation. And so when we come forward, we'll continue with Jonathan Lowy here on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Oh, this new dose is... nope, that's not it. The price is nowhere to be found.
Mr. Green? Hi, it's all good. We've got this.
This is not just help from a Walgreens pharmacist.
Oh, new prescriptions. Cool. Let me check to see if these are the lowest cost options covered by your Medicare plan.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
This is someone supporting you every step of the way. Chat with a pharmacist today to find help saving. This is the human kind of help. Walgreens.
This is the story of the one. Who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online.
Uh-huh.
I read that 3 out of 4 adults in the United States have a high risk factor for severe COVID-19. And black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jonathan Lowy, who's founder and president of Global Action on Gun Violence. Delighted to have him on. We invited him on this program because, as I said a moment ago, in case you've just tuned in, the White House, with all the other moves that they've been making, and as I said in our first hour today, it was quite the first week of this administration. Deportations, firings, pardons, a blizzard of executive orders. The Gulf of Mexico became the Gulf of America. Donald Trump came to Los Angeles, and he had some not so nice things to say about Democratic leaders in this state. He came to Southern California in the midst of these wildfires, refused to go to Altadena, where these historic black neighborhoods have been burned out and decimated, but he didn't have time to go to Altadena. And so it's a crazy, bizarre, strange, pick your word, first week of this Trump administration. But among other things, in this first week, they took down the White House Office of Gun Prevention, the website that is, which gives us some sense of how this issue is going to be tackled or not, as it were, in the years to come. I don't need to tell you that the disproportionate victims of gun violence in this country happen to be people of color, black and brown, and I shared some numbers at the top of this hour about what we've experienced already in the month of January. 67 babies between 0 and the teenage years already killed just in the month of January. So the numbers are not painting a pretty picture for what we're going to experience in this year. And then you add to that Donald Trump is back in the White House, that the NRA and these gun lobbies are on steroids and they are friends of this Trump administration. It makes you wonder what the next few years are going to be like with regard to this particular issue. And so into that frame steps Jonathan Lowy for a conversation in this hour about what the next few months and years may very well look like for us. So, Jonathan, I want to ask the question I posed a moment ago. When you take down a website, it sends a particular message, and I want to just press on this a little bit more. To your mind, what message did that decision send?
The message was that you can't rely on the federal government, or it's certainly not the executive branch, to be a partner in preventing gun violence, at least for the next few years. And, you know, I hope the message doesn't send, is not that we should give up hope, because we can't give up hope. We've got to keep fighting. We've got to look for strategies, you know, outside of this administration that can save lives.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more then about those strategies.
Sure. Well, you know, at Global Action on Gun Violence, we work mostly outside of the political system. And one of the most important strategies, I think, is litigation. You know, the gun industry is the major driver of gun violence in this country and throughout the region and really the world. And they engage in practices that make them a profit, but they cost lives in our communities. And so by suing the gun manufacturers and gun dealers who are acting recklessly and illegally, you put a price on that dangerous conduct. And then if they just care about the bottom line, making money, it no longer is profitable to do the dangerous thing. And that will force change.
Tell me, I'm fascinated by this last part. Tell me more about how you take the profit out of this. I mean, that's part of what I should say. It's not just part; it is the part, I suspect, of why these gun manufacturers continue to do what they do. There's a profit motive in here. So I'll come back to the litigation piece in just a second. But tell me more about how you take the profit motive out of this.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think they're tied, and I mean. So I mentioned, I've been doing this, mostly litigation, representing victims and survivors of gun violence for 27 years now. I'll go back a number of years, actually, to your home state in Indiana. I represented a number of victims of a neo-Nazi a number of years ago who went on a spree shooting. He killed Ricky Birdsong, who was the first African-American basketball coach in the Big Ten, while he was jogging with his kids in his neighborhood outside of Chicago. And he shot and killed a number of others. Now, how did this guy get his gun? He got it from a gun trafficker who had been sold over 70 handguns, cheap handguns, by the same dealer over a period of months. And the manufacturer was this company that focused on selling these cheap guns that are used mostly by criminals, and they willingly supplied this reckless gun dealer who supplied the trafficker. So there was a path to how this guy got his gun, and by bringing a lawsuit that says, look, if you're going to sell guns, if you're going to make guns, you got to do it safely, you got to do it responsibly, you got to do it legally. And if you don't, you've got to pay the victims. That changes behavior.
Tell me, I'm trying to stay with you here. Tell me how that becomes enforceable. I hear the strategy, but tell me more about the ways in which that becomes enforceable or can be enforceable.
Sure. Well, I mean, if you win these cases, and we've over the years won a number of them, it sends a message. So now gun dealers, most of them, by the way, are law-abiding, are careful, but it sends a message to them that I've got to be extra careful, and maybe I've got to do things that would have prevented that neo-Nazi from getting a gun. And then for the ones that don't care about anything but the bottom line, all of a sudden when someone comes in and says, I'm going to be buying 70 guns from you in the next few weeks, it's obvious that person's a gun trafficker. Before a lawsuit, they're thinking, great, that's all profit for me. I'm not going to be affected by what those guns when they get on the street. All of a sudden they're thinking, wait a minute, I might have to pay $1 million or more judgment. It's not all profit. And now maybe I shouldn't sell that gun. Not because it's the right thing, because maybe this guy doesn't care about doing the right thing, but it's more expensive now to sell the gun to the obvious trafficker. And that sort of litigation pressure has worked with all sorts of other industries. Tobacco, we're seeing it now with opioid. We saw it with car manufacturers and others. And it, to me, can work with guns, particularly where you have the political system just not dealing with this problem.
I'm trying to imagine a scenario in which I could be convinced that litigation against gun manufacturers can ultimately be successful, given how connected they are politically, given how steep their pockets are, given how strong the lobby is. I'm just trying to imagine if we're not ever going to get to a space where we can address this issue of gun violence in the political realm, and clearly we have no capacity to do that right about now. America is already the most, I suspect, the most litigious nation in the world. We sue everybody for everything here, and I hear the strategy of litigation in this regard. I'm not suggesting it's a bad strategy. I'm just trying to wrap my brain around how successful litigation can be against these manufacturers.
Sure. Well, I can, take you back to the Clinton administration around 1998, 99. There were a number of lawsuits, and as a result of them, what happened was Smith & Wesson, one of the major gun manufacturers, agreed to a settlement where they agreed to completely change how they make and sell guns. And they agreed, we're only going to sell to responsible gun dealers that have training, that don't sell to these obvious traffickers. We're going to put in safety devices that prevent unintentional shootings of children and others. So that was, incredible change, much more than Congress would do, and it was a result of litigation. Now, the other side of the story is that Smith & Wesson ended up backing out of the deal. They went to Congress. They got this law passed that gives the gun industry some special protection from liability, and so the litigation pressure was sort of taken off the industry. But now there are a number of successful cases, and I represent the government of Mexico in a couple of them that have made headway in saying that special protection law does not give the gun industry, a carte blanche immunity, and you can hold them accountable. We've got one of those cases actually going before the Supreme Court in the next few months, and it shows how these sorts of cases can make a real difference.
I want to come back to the Supreme Court in a second and ask you a question specifically about the Supreme Court and guns. But since you raised this issue earlier, tell me more about the takeaways, the lessons for how litigation works successfully against the tobacco industry. What are the takeaways from that successful fight for this fight?
Sure. Well, one thing that happened was litigation, exposed some of the dirty secrets of the gun industry. It was litigation that uncovered how the tobacco companies were lying, how they knew about the addictive nature of nicotine, how they made cigarettes to be more addictive, how they marketed to kids, all this stuff. And it was that both discovery and litigation and ultimately liability, that led to a lot of change. And we're seeing that with opioids now, with these massive settlements.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned moments ago the Supreme Court. It's a storied history here, a storied past of the Supreme Court and guns. Give me your sense of where you think that relationship, that story rather, the story is right now when it comes to the Supreme Court and guns. Where are we in this narrative?
Well, there's a couple sides of it. One is the Second Amendment, and the Supreme Court in 2008 completely changed the view of the Second Amendment. Where basically for 200 years, the Second Amendment didn't stop regulation and laws in any way, because the Second Amendment was viewed as related to a well-regulated militia, which was state armies, and it really had nothing to do with private gun ownership. That all changed in 2008, and then there have been other decisions since then that have, in my view, been completely wrong, that have suggested that to have a gun law be sustained, allowed, it has to have some historical basis from either the 19th century or the 18th century. And I think that's wrong and crazy for all sorts of reasons. The somewhat better news is that the last time the Supreme Court considered the Second Amendment, they sort of backtracked on that test a little bit, and they upheld a ban on domestic violence offenders. So it's still certainly a serious problem, but I think the court realized that they had gone too far. The other side of the Supreme Court is, what do they do about the sort of gun industry liability cases that I've been talking about? And the case that I've got on behalf of the government of Mexico is the first case that the Supreme Court will ever consider gun industry liability. So we will see how that plays out in the months to come.
What's your read of how that may play out? I mean, I don't want to be snarky here, but we know the way this court is structured, 63, and anything's possible. But I can't imagine, can you, that this Supreme Court would seriously take up the issue of gun industry, gun manufacturer liability? I do. I mean, I'm an optimist, and I think that, and I'd have to get real wonky, and everyone but the gun industry lawyers would be tuned out if I went into all the details. Sure.
But the issues in the Mexico case are really sort of narrow legal issues. They're not political. They're not about the Second Amendment. They're just these legal principles that apply to all sorts of other cases. I think it's exactly the sort of thing where you're going to have justices who are willing to side with us, because it's not about politics. And I think we're right, and I think I'm certainly really hopeful that we're going to win it.
Our guest is Jonathan Lowy. He is the founding president of Global Action on Gun Violence. And in case you've just tuned in, we were discussing earlier the fact that one of the many things that Donald Trump's administration did last week in their first week in office, or back in office, is to take down the White House website on gun prevention and what that means. Nobody's surprised here, given the relationship between the gun lobby and the Trump and Team Trump, that not much is going to happen on this particular issue. But these numbers of mass shootings continue unabated, and so we can't just put our heads in the sand. And so we continue this dialogue with Jonathan Lowy when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code MOTOR for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MOTOR for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code MOTOR.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Chicago Public Schools CEO Pedro Martinez is under fire for a false report about ICE agents at a grade school. He defended the district's response while Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor calls for a coordinated plan with Mayor Brandon Johnson for future incidents. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, accused of orchestrating Tupac Shakur's murder, faces new battery charges in jail, adding $50,000 to his bail. His initial bail was $750,000 and he's due in court on Tuesday. Target announced it is ending its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to align with the evolving landscape. This move follows similar actions by Walmart, Meta, and McDonald's. And former Disney Channel star Sky Jackson announced on Instagram that she gave birth to her first child, Kasai. She shared a photo of the baby in a flannel onesie, and friends referred to the child as a he. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Lowe's knows that with job site delivery as soon as same day, you can get what you need without losing valuable time. They help, you save. Valid on eligible in-stock orders and select zip codes for same-day delivery. Subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. More terms apply. See lowes.com/same-day delivery for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The UCLA women's basketball team, number 1 in the country, is 20-0 after their 82-67 win Sunday at number 8 Maryland. Bruin center Lauren Betts dropped a career-high 33 points. UCLA is 8-0 in their first season in the Big Ten Conference. The Lakers and Clippers begin 4-game road trips tonight. The Lakers are at Charlotte. The Clippers are in Phoenix. The Kansas City Chiefs are in position to win their 3rd straight Super Bowl, something no NFL team has done. They'll play the Philadelphia Eagles February 9th in New Orleans. The last major sports team to win 3 straight championships is the University of Connecticut's women's basketball team. UConn was national champs in 2016, 2015, and 2014. The Lakers are the last men's basketball team to win 3 straight titles. They got the chip in 2000, 2001, and 2002. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
That was another way I would smoke once an hour. That didn't work either. All that would happen at some point of the day, I would end up doubling up. Other ways that I tried to quit was I stopped buying cigarettes totally. But if I took 3 puffs off of 15 friends, those didn't count because they weren't my cigarettes and they weren't full cigarettes. You know, I went through a lot.
Every attempt is part of your story to quit for good. Visit Kick It California today at kickitca.org.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
1 in 3 children born today will get diabetes. This sad prediction by the Centers for Disease Control will come true if millions of Americans don't improve their lifestyles, especially by changing what they eat, how much they eat, and how active they are every day. Every 23 seconds, another American gets diabetes. Stop diabetes before it starts. To learn more, contact the American Diabetes Association or download our free diabetes education programs at learningaboutdiabetes.org.
This sandwich is not just spicy, it's flavorful.
Hi, this is Patayo. And this is Elsa. And a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich is that spicy kick. Because the spice comes in at just the right moment.
Oh, no. A little thing I love is that cilantro lime sauce. It's a fun blend of zesty and bold. That's what really makes me happy. Are you gonna eat all your fries?
Order a Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich and a Diet Dr. Pepper on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Jonathan Lowy, founder and president of Global Action on Gun Violence. We are in the midst of this conversation in large measure because the White House the last week, amongst other moves, in case you've just tuned in, took down the White House office, the website that is on gun prevention. And so strange and bizarre week, but they have moved with speed, the Trump team that is, to make it abundantly clear the things that matter to them and the things that don't matter to them. And apparently gun violence prevention does not matter to them. And so we invited Jonathan on this program to talk about how we navigate this period over the next 4 years, where it's abundantly clear that America has a gun problem and that these numbers are not headed in the right direction. And so we continue our conversation now about all things guns in our society. I am fascinated, Jonathan, every time I have one of these conversations about the number of guns in our society. And it just seems to me that while this issue may not be intractable, I appreciate and respect the work that you and others are doing. There are so many guns on our streets that it seems impossible to wrap your arms around this just based on the number of firearms that are in fact available. It seems to me that every day you wake up, you're climbing a mountain. It's an uphill battle, just given the sheer number of guns, again, that are on American streets. What say you about that?
Well, I mean, I think we can't give up hope, but also, for good reason, because, what ATF and others have found is that virtually all guns used in crime are sold by a very small number of gun dealers. So It's not just there are a lot of guns out there and criminals somehow get them. They get them from a specific way. I mean, in fact, about 5% of gun dealers were found to sell about 90% of crime guns. So about 5% of dealers are selling virtually all the crime guns. 1% of gun dealers were found to sell over half the crime guns. So it's this, identifiable, manageable problem, and we've just got to stop those bad gun dealers from continuing to recklessly and illegally sell to obvious straw purchasers and obvious gun traffickers. And we can do that. I mean, we can do it certainly through laws and regulation, but we can also do it through litigation, from suing them, from holding them accountable, and to try to get manufacturers to stop supplying these bad dealers and instead, use the 90% of gun dealers who are selling guns the right way.
I don't know that this connects to this, but I saw this, as we all did, and wanted to get take your temperature on it in case there's a connection here, and there very, very well may be. And if there is, I'm sure you'll tell me. But we saw the news some days ago that Donald Trump designated drug cartels as terrorists. I'm still reading about this myself, trying to understand what this really means. We do know that these drug cartels are controlled by crime groups, by crime families. We know that that weapons and guns are obviously a part of this process. Does that designation by Trump in any way impact the conversation that we're having right now? These drug cartels, again, being designated now as terrorist organizations by Donald Trump.
Sure, I think it does, and the fact is, I mentioned, I represent the government of Mexico in lawsuits against both gun manufacturers and dealers, and the point of those suits is Mexico has like one gun store in the entire country. They got really tough, gun laws, but the cartels, whether you call them terrorists or not, are getting these huge numbers, hundreds of thousands of military-style weapons from the United States, and they're trafficked every day across the border. So, our message is, if you care about stopping the cartels, whatever you call them, if you care about the fentanyl trafficking in the U.S. that's largely driven by those cartels, if you care about migration, whatever your view is on that issue, and that is driven by violence, gun violence with U.S. guns. And so for any of those problems, you've got to stop the supply of guns to the cartels. And the way you do that is at the source here in the United States. Stop the dealers from supplying the traffickers. Stop the manufacturers from supplying the bad dealers.
On any number of issues, there are countries, republics around the globe that I could point to, Jonathan, who are making much more progress on issue X, Y, or Z than we are in this country. For example, if I were talking about education, I would look to Finland. They do it so much better than we do it here in this country. I can pick any number of other issues on which I think there are countries around the globe making much more progress than we are making here in the U.S., never mind this notion of American exceptionalism, that we're better than everybody at everything. It's not true. And so on this particular issue, who should we look to? Give me some sense of other nation states, other countries that are successfully wrestling with these issues of guns. I mean, I recognize that nobody seems, at least to my knowledge, nobody seems to have the problem that we have with guns. But give me some reason to be hopeful that there are other republics that have addressed this issue or are addressing it in ways that suggest that progress can be made.
Well, I mean, you can look to virtually any country because, other countries, unless they're in our neighborhood and being polluted by our guns, most every other country that you'd look to does not have a serious gun problem. You can look, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, virtually everywhere. And it's because strong gun laws, strong regulation works. In most other countries, if you want a gun, you provide a good reason for it, and you show that you're trained, and you show that you don't have mental health problems, and that sort of thing works. We don't have anything like that. So, I mean, one example, in Japan, it is about as common to get killed by a gun as it is to die from a lightning strike in the United States. And that's just one example. So it's not a problem in most other countries that you'd look to.
Yeah. We could spend hours talking about why we think that is. There's a conversation to be had about whether it's the guns or whether it's the people. I digress on that for now. More with Jonathan Lloyd when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Stirring fiber, exercising, frequent trips to the store for more laxatives and fiber. Sounds like your constipation with belly pain is a lot to manage. But if your symptoms that keep coming back are signs of irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C, ask your doctor how Linzess can help you get ahead of it. Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LANZESS.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Jonathan Lowy, who is the founder and president of Global Action on Gun Violence. Again, in case you've just tuned in, the White House has taken down the website for the Office of Gun Prevention, and so that gives us a pretty good idea of where we are headed, or not, as it were, in the months and years to come. Again, Jonathan Lowy is our guest, and we're delighted to have him on. Jonathan, let me just ask you. Let me ask you this: if the White House is turning a blind eye on gun violence, given their cozy relationship with the NRA and the gun lobby, then I suspect we should not imagine that we're going to have any real conversation, much less any real movement on the issue of mental health as it relates to this issue. Every time we see one of these mass shootings, we for a few days, a few hours in the media, usher the nation into a conversation about mental health. And then a couple of days later, we move on and return to business as usual. But if they're not interested in even having a website about gun prevention, about gun violence in this country, then this conversation about mental health, I suspect we should, just not prepare ourselves for anything meaningful in that regard. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think we need to keep the conversation going about all these subjects. We just can't expect the White House to be participating in those conversations. And I think that's certainly the message that I would give on guns, but I would give it on a lot of other issues. You know, we've just got to realize that we can't give up hope. We got to keep fighting. We got to keep working. There are things we can do, even if the White House is not going to be friendly on those issues. And, we can go to the states. We can go to those in Congress, even if they're in the minority, that are on the right side to keep the conversation going. We can go to the courts. We can go outside the United States, and that's one thing that we're doing at Global Action on Gun Violence. We're working with other countries who are affected by U.S. guns. We're going to the United Nations. We're going to the Organization of American States. We're going to other international organizations to put pressure on the U.S. and the U.S. gun industry. And, I think that's the sort of thing we're going to need to do on, a whole bunch of issues. And we can make change that way, even if we don't have the White House as our friend.
We talked about the courts earlier in this conversation. You mentioned the states now. With all these red states that we saw pop up on the big map on election night, tell me why I should believe that states are more receptive to a serious conversation about gun violence than the feds are?
Well, I mean, for one, not all states will. I mean, certainly there are states like California and Massachusetts and New York that have strong gun laws, and they've done, a lot of good in addressing the gun violence problem. They're still infected by neighboring states with weak gun laws. So so there's only so much you can do, at the state level. But, I do think, making the case that, if you care about the migration problem, if you care about fentanyl trafficking, I mean, those are things that, cut across party lines. I mean, red states, they've got huge fentanyl overdose problems. And, that suggests that they should want to stop the flow of guns across the border to the cartels, because it's those guns, those U.S. guns, that are fueling the fentanyl trade here. And people have not historically made that connection, but I think once you make it, and it's true, and it's just the facts, you might get some strange bedfellows, some people who ordinarily are really, pro NRA, if they see fentanyl overdoses in their community and they know that the cartels are driving this, they're going to think, why are we arming the cartels? And the way you stop arming them is to get the gun industry to, stop supplying that crime gun pipeline.
Our remaining moments with Jonathan Lowy when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair? Who has time to sit?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jonathan Lowy, who's the founding president of Global Action on Gun Violence. I've got 3 minutes left here, Jonathan. I want to give all 3 minutes to you to highlight for me, underscore for me the areas on which or in which you think we can make progress over the next 4 years, never mind the administration.
Sure. Well, on guns, I think one area is litigation, and that's something that's in the courts. You don't need Congress. You don't need the White House. I think mobilizing support around the world, because people around the world are affected by U.S. guns, that can be helpful. I mean, United Nations, other countries, getting Mexico, Jamaica, Canada, Haiti, these other countries, to speak out and to draw the connections for all of us, to draw the connections between U.S. guns and the fentanyl problem, U.S. guns and migration, U.S. guns and regional instability, U.S. guns and the spread of transnational organized crime throughout the U.S. And if you make that connection, then you get people who are concerned about those other issues to care about stopping the crime gun pipeline. And if they care about stopping the crime gun pipeline to the cartels, that will reduce gun violence in the U.S. as well. Because if the gun industry is reformed, you won't have guns being, bought in Indiana and, brought to Chicago and that sort of thing.
It is fascinating for me that a guy who survived being shot at is still so cavalier about guns in this country. Go figure. Say nothing of the fact that a day after they take down the gun violence prevention website at the White House, we have the Antioch high school shooting. So already on his watch, we have had a school shooting, and I suspect, sadly, we're going to see more of that this year and in the years to come. So it is it's numbing, mind-numbing to consider again that these shootings continue, that the guy who's president now was shot at and survived it, and yet they still won't take the issue of guns seriously. I digress for now. Jonathan Lowy is founding president of Global Action on Gun Violence. Jonathan, thank you for your work and your witness. Good to have you on in this hour, and have a great rest of your day, sir.
Same with you. Thank you so much, Tavis.
Thank you. Good to have you on this program. When we come forward, it's a conversation with Ida Miriam Davis about her new book, Kindred Creation, Parables and Paradigms for Freedom, Black World Making to Reclaim Our Heritage and Our Humanity. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.